What's up, guys? SpiderBite here. On November 11th, 2008, a game was released by Activision and Treyarch Studios called Call of Duty World at War. Hidden within this game was a entirely separate game mode called NEXTGENTACTICS. And you only unlock this game mode once you completed the campaign. It was later patched so that this game mode was unlocked no matter if you completed the campaign or not, but initially it was. And this video series, this is sort of the first video, is going to focus on the storyline within the game mode, within the NEXTGENTACTICS game mode, and include the maps from starting with World at War. And they're going to be, I'm going to cover them in order. So we're going to start with Noctur, Untitled, and we're going to go to Zombie Verrückt, etc. All through the maps to Black Ops, and this will be a good precursor to Black Ops 2. But what the initial thing I want to start with, and going through a lot of research on these maps, came across, first of all, I started with the panel that they had set up at COD XP last year, and I reviewed the video, and they referenced a blog post over on Haxington Post, and there will be a link in the description. And it's by this guy named Jesse Snyder, who used to work at Treyarch, and he's actually, now he works at 343 Studios and is working on Halo 4. But this guy has this extensive blog post that was released on the same day that World at War was released, describing the evolution of World at War NEXTGENTACTICS. And I wanted to go through this first before we actually dove into the story, because I want to discuss the evolution not only of the storyline within the maps, but also how zombies evolved at Treyarch Studios. So just going back to this post, and I'm going to run through it almost in its entirety and provide you some background images and gameplay as well to give you a feel for what's going on. So originally they simply wanted to come up with some additional content such as COD 4 had. At the end of the game, after the credits rolled, there was this Mile High Club that you could play, and it was just cool additional content. Didn't really fit in with the rest of the game. It was just bonus content after the credits rolled. And they were talking about doing something similar. Actually, during the credits, they talked about, and I'm going to show you some gameplay from a zombies map, which actually seems somewhat similar to what they were trying to achieve here. But what they thought was that you'd be a German holed up in this bunker, and the Americans would be storming the beach at Normandy, and you'd be shooting all these Americans, and then just as the credits ended, a U.S. soldier would break into the bunker, and there would be an explosion. You'd be knocked unconscious, and you'd be on the ground. You'd wake up, and there's this U.S. soldier standing over you and basically shooting you in the face. And then, the credits would finish rolling. But he describes that the resistance, obviously, to playing as the Germans, shooting Americans, even though the Americans won in the end, it really didn't fly. So they acted actually. This whole concept for zombies started off on this level called Little Resistance, which is the second level in the World at War, and I've got some gameplay in the background. And even though you can't really see it, he describes the developers adding animations for these Japanese soldiers, so once you call the rockets in, and I was a little bit too far away to really see this, but they added animations for the Japanese soldiers to be sort of dazed after this rocket strike, and they'd be walking around, and people commented that they looked like zombies. So this was sort of the start, and provided the first glimpse into what eventually evolved into the way the zombies walk around and react. So 6 months actually passed, and you know how long the time frame is for these games. I mean, obviously Treyarch working on it for at least 2 years before being released, or a portion thereof. But 6 months actually passed, and there was a discussion about, okay, we need some extra content. What are we going to do with this extra content? And Jesse describes that he really liked the concept of being run over and not being really able to win, but surviving as long as possible. And describes one thing that's common in COD games is the feeling that you're invincible, that when things go wrong, you'll be okay. Everyone lives to see the next day. Well, not so, at least as far as he wanted in this additional content. So, and one of the scenarios he describes is in COD 4, in the after the nuke goes off, and I'm going to show you the gameplay, because, I mean, this was really intense for me. I played through COD 4, and this mission here just gave me goosebumps, because it was pretty crazy. Just dying in this, after this, this nuclear bomb has gone off, and it's pretty crazy. So that was the initial concept. It was going to be additional content where you wouldn't survive. You're not going through a COD game. You're not gonna, you're not gonna win at the end of the game. The U.S. isn't gonna come out on top. It's no. At some point, you will die. At the end, you will die. You will not survive forever. You will either get overrun, you will get destroyed, you will get maimed, you will get killed, you will get brutalized. We can keep going, right? And this is where the concept came from. I mean, drawing off of COD 4 Modern Warfare. So I think there were a number of conversations going on in and around that same time. So they started talking about tower defense, and one of the guys brought up Geometry Wars. Geometry Wars was actually a entirely separate game mode that was included with Project Gotham Racing 2. Eventually, that game, that individual game mode, became so popular that it's its own game now and was available on Xbox Live. So that's what they want to get to, was it's going to be a sort of a game mode in and of itself. It's not going to necessarily relate to the main theme that exists in the actual campaign for World at War. So one of these guys, they were talking about the extra content, they were talking about tower defense. Then there's a guy named Sean Slayback, who Jesse was talking to, and he mentioned a game called The Last Stand. And basically, it's a flash game where, so you're looking at it from a third-person perspective, and you're shooting at these zombies. All these zombies are rushing in from the left-hand side, and they're trying to break down barricades, and you're shooting at them, and then it comes in waves. So you'd have one wave, and then there'd be like a rest period where you can actually repair barriers, you can search for weapons, and you can search for other survivors to help you shoot at the zombies. You get to the next wave, and progressively you get access to finding better weapons and using better weapons and finding more survivors. There are actually two versions of the game that I found. So I actually have some gameplay from The Last Stand. I produced an entirely separate video for The Last Stand, so you can go back and see it. But that game, The Last Stand, is the concept for Call of Duty Zombies. We can play this game, but let's make it World at War. Let's make it first person. Let's make it where you can, in real time, you can, the barriers get broken down, but you can rebuild them, and where you can have really buyable weapons. You can find and buy weapons in the level. So that's where the epiphany happened. And it got pitched. He pitched it early on, and people didn't like it. People didn't like it. They were like, no, no, no. And they didn't want to put any resources to it. I mean, obviously, in the development of a game, everybody's just full steam ahead on the actual campaign and the multiplayer. I mean, there's very little room and time and money to have a separate project going on. I mean, maybe something to test drive, but not like a full-scale development. And during this time, there's actually this parallel game mode that was being developed called Bunker Defense, and it was a game mode kind of similar but kind of not, where you're actually running through the levels, and there's some guys, like it followed from a lot of the levels that were in the campaign, but it ran through them. There was no real defense. Even though it was called Bunker Defense, you weren't in an area defending, you were running all over the place through all these levels. And there wasn't support for this game called Zombie Nazis. Actually, it wasn't even Nazi Zombies. It was Zombie Nazis. And Jesse decided to go off after a few more months. I mean, we're probably getting fairly close to release. I mean, at least within a few months, maybe 6 months or something. But he went off and said, you know what? This weekend, man, I'm going to prototype this game. I mean, it's not going to be perfect. I'm going to use, obviously, a lot of the stuff that has already been developed in the single player and the campaign. But he went off and prototyped it over a weekend, and he came back to show the team. And in the next video, I'll describe what happened and where it went from there, because there's still a lot more to it. And guys, I know this isn't the actual storyline within the game, but honestly, this stuff, when I started going through this and doing my research, this stuff really interested me, and I really wanted to bring it to you guys. And it's going to be part of the overall series. Don't worry, I'm going to be covering it all, but I really wanted to take a look at the evolution of the game mode itself, of where it started and where it went to, and how it started, because it's really interesting. I mean, it's really interesting to me. I really hope that you guys get some interest out of it and appreciate or like that I'm actually covering this. But we will be doing all the storyline for sure. But stay tuned. Next episode, we'll be going through where it evolved from that weekend prototype that Jesse worked on. So stay tuned, guys. I'm Spider, and I'm out.